estimated wait time is approximately forever.
Cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below, subscribe if you are new, and this is not a stream that I wanted to do. It's not a stream that I ever really want to do again for obvious reasons, but here we are. Donald Trump has been hit. He's been hit with the book, not for sentencing quite yet, but he has been convicted. He's been convicted by the trial in New York City by the jury. You talk about a city that is over 90, that district is over 90-some% Democrat. You talk about a jury of the peers. I don't really think that these people are peers exactly, but when you look at it, this case was non-existent in reality for the prosecution. This case would not have been tried anywhere outside of New York City. It would not have been successful if you had a jury outside of New York City, and we still don't even know the crime. And to top it all off, you look at the case in general. We see unprecedented actions from a judge whose daughter works for the Biden campaign. Apparently, Trump's not allowed to say that, but it's true. Your judge who's overseeing the case and picking the jury is the arbiter of your fate in many ways, and they get to dictate certain aspects of the case, and they get to instruct what would suffice a conviction, what would not suffice a conviction. And here's the deal. Well, he was going out there and he was, I think Trump's saying conflicted. I don't really think he was that conflicted. He knew exactly what he was doing. And on top of it, you talk about the first crime, misdemeanor, statute of limitations gone. And on top of it, there was no violation of federal finance law simultaneously with New York election law and tax law, because those were the three options for the jury. He said they didn't have to agree on anything. So long as they basically gave him a conviction, they could have been divided. You still would have gotten a conviction. It doesn't matter. This has never been happened before. This is unprecedented. You have all these legal scholars on the left and the right. You have people like Alan Dershowitz, who is not really a Trump fan, but he cares a lot about the law. He defends Hunter Biden as well. And then you have people like Jonathan Turley, people that are probably a little bit more right-leaning than that are coming forward. These highly respected legal scholars, they're saying that there's no case. They're saying that there's no crime. The prosecution was a joke, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you talk about the case, you talk about the judge, you talk about the jury, you talk about the location, you talk about the timing. This is orchestrated political theater. Everybody knows it. This is not about accountability. If they cared about accountability, Hillary Clinton would have been in a jail cell. Joe Biden would be locked up for doing far worse things that actually put national security at risk. But Donald Trump apparently paying a lawyer. Again, hush money's not illegal. I don't know why people don't seem to get that through their skull. And even if he did, pay it with campaign finance money, which we still haven't found out what exactly he violated, what law he violated there. We still don't know beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, apparently, it doesn't matter to these people because he's Donald Trump. It doesn't matter. We just want him in prison. Honestly, I just wish people would be honest about it. Just say honest. We're going to convict you for being Donald Trump because we don't like you, because that's what they're doing. And it's going to, I think there's a very good chance of backfiring, because we talk about backfiring and we talk about the influx of donations Trump has gotten. I don't really see a lot of people talking about on the timeline, I gave X amount to Trump, I gave Y amount to Trump. But Donald Trump, his donation site crashed earlier today. I donated before the verdict when apparently it was coming out sooner. I'm like, okay, it's going to be a conviction. I'm going to send him a big donation. Then he gets convicted. I go to send him a bigger donation and the site crashed. Eventually it's back up. I did send him the bigger donation, and hopefully a lot of people in chat, they will be donating to Donald Trump's campaign if they can. Yes, I know the economy's tough, but this is an investment, and some people can't do it, but some people definitely can do it. And we have a lot of super chatters in chat. Honestly, as much as we love the super chats, take that money if you can, double that up, or just give it to Trump entirely. Don't even bother sending a super chat, because this is more important for the record. This is more important than anything that is going on right now. This is a justice system gone rogue. We sanction countries for doing half of what they're doing to Donald Trump. We sanction other countries for this type of behavior. This is the Putin, the Xi. They're looking at this. They're the ones that are taking notes. They're the people that are looking at this, and they are taking notes because they know that this is somehow, is this going to be effective? Is this going to, change a public opinion of Donald Trump? It doesn't seem like it is. Based off the indictments. Now, maybe a conviction's different. I'm not saying it can't be different. And thank you to some of the moderators for putting the link in chat for Trump. Make sure you put the link in chat every once in a while. We need people, all hands on deck. Donate to Trump. A lot of people have never donated to a campaign before. They're donating to Trump. You have people that are, I've gotten many text messages today from a lot of people. You see people on Twitter talking about that they've never backed Trump before, but now they are feeling obligated to, just because of what's going on, because they see that maybe, he is the threat to the system after all. There were questions. A lot of Trump's initial appeal was he's a threat to the system that has just gone out there and destroyed this country. And that's the political establishment. But Donald Trump, what Donald Trump is doing, well, you're kind of seeing the fact that the state is cracking down on him, the same political establishment that screwed over America is cracking down on him. That's huge. You talk about some of the worst crime ever in some of these parts of New York City and some of these other places, crimes through the roof compared to a few years ago. But no, crime will not be prosecuted in those places. Real crimes are not going, they're going completely unprosecuted. But Donald Trump, he's the problem. Why do you think New York is moving right? Why do you think that New York is getting redder and redder and redder in certain places, mainly New York City. Not saying New York's going to flip, but why is New York getting redder? Why is Trump attracting a crowd in the Bronx? And a lot of the people that they do interview are people who have never voted for him before, even in 2020. The answer is because they see what's going on. They see they're getting screwed. They're not buying the gaslighting about the economy. They're not buying the gaslighting about anything. They're, cities being overrun with illegal aliens. Instead of actually solving the border crisis, deporting people, following the law, they are coddling these people, housing them, and then the guy who opposes that, that's who they're trying to put in jail for basically nothing, something that everybody already knew about a long time ago. And even then, hush money's not illegal. They haven't really identified which specific law was broken, but apparently they didn't even need to agree on a specific law being broken to convict. It basically just says, if you think Trump did something wrong, pick your poison. Pick one of the three. It's never happened before, and convict. That's what he did, because if he wouldn't have done that, you talk about a hung jury. The odds of a hung jury probably would have been higher, but even then they would have probably found a way to still convict him, because that jury was very biased at the get-go, and maybe we were a little delusional for saying, oh, it's going to be a hung jury. But either way, I just encourage people to know that Trump's probably not going to jail. Probably not. Keyword is probably. I mean, we've seen everything. We've seen everything before. But it's important that we get involved and we make sure that, take this ball of energy, because I feel like a lot of people are angry. A lot of people are mad. They're going to take that energy and bring it to the fight. A lot of liberals are a little smug about what's going on. They're smug. They know deep down it's bullshit. They just hate Trump. Just admit it, honestly. If these people want to be honest with themselves, they want to be honest with themselves, they want to go out there, they want to be honest, well, here's what they need to do. They just have to, it would do themselves, it'd do the entire country a major service if they just admitted their actual intentions. But they wouldn't win that way, because obviously people would look at that and they see, well, this is not right. This is not fair. They can't win on their merits, and they can't win on their merits. You have no new jobs in this country for any American citizen net. After you take into account the COVID recovery, you have a net loss of jobs still for native-born Americans, American citizens, that is. You don't have that. And in terms of what you're seeing for the border, it's wide open. In 2020, yeah, we were locked down, but, the border was as well, to be fair. It's not to justify the lockdowns. It's to say that even if you do want to play the 4 years ago game, I think most metrics 4 years ago were far better than they are right now. The economy was better. You could afford things. Now fast food is becoming a luxury, but we're told everything is fine because, I don't know, the price of eggs didn't go up by as much this month as it went up last month or whatever. It's honestly ridiculous, and they know it's ridiculous. And they have to defend their record. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to imprison Donald Trump for things that aren't crimes, or for crimes that he didn't commit or don't even exist. So that's what they're trying to do. At least they're trying to, at a very minimum, if they can't put him in jail because he will appeal, what are they trying to do? Hit him with the label of being a convicted felon, because then they could be like, why are you going to vote for a convicted felon? It's like, I don't care if he's on death row. I'd vote for him over Biden. I'd vote for anything over Biden at this point. But to be honest, Donald Trump especially, because he is that threat to the system. And that's why they're doing this. That's why they're doing this. So he's a convicted felon. He should be wearing that as a badge of honor, just like the mugshot. It's kind of like the same thing. And I'm not going to say the political, scene is going to be identical because of this, because this is definitely something bigger. But in terms of the base energy and just the small dollar donations, I mean, you didn't see, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Trump's donation site crash after the mugshot was taken. I don't know how much has been donated, but a lot of money's been donated. It's backfired, but also big donors are piling on too. You have the small dollar donors and you also have the big dollar donors, and you kind of need both in this political environment to win. And he's playing his cards right. He's doing what he has to do. It was out of his control. They're indicting him. They're putting him on trial for a bunch of ridiculous things. Who knows? Maybe they'll indict him on 30 other things before the election to try and sway public opinion. I mean, I don't think it's going to matter, but it probably would help him. The indictments definitely have helped him. You want to say a conviction, maybe not, but it's kind of the same trajectory, isn't it? If he gets indicted and then he gets acquitted, the initial cause of whichever way the support would go for the indictment would be, it would be gone away. It would be dissipated because it's been neutralized. Just like, for example, if Trump, because of the whole Russian investigation, his approval rating was a little bit lower than when he eventually got acquitted for it, when they admitted there was no crime. They're not doing the same thing here, obviously. In fact, they're moving to even more absurd anti-Trump conspiracies to get him on. But still, you see what's going on. You see what's happening. Trump has been going up. Maybe it won't move the needle, but maybe you could say he would gain more support. Not just because of the money he's getting, but because people are waking up and they're seeing what's going on. We hear about independents or the suburbs or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that the people that are independents are stupid or that they're sheep just because they may have, turned to Biden once or whatever. It doesn't exactly matter. As for independents, Donald Trump, clearly, if they are looking at him and Biden right now and they're selecting Donald Trump, they're not going to say, well, Trump got convicted over something that wasn't really a trial that was going to sway my vote to begin with. I don't think that anyone's hinging their vote on this. I don't think it's going to hurt him. It might cause a polling response bias one way or another. I will, if Biden gains in the polls, at least in terms of margin, I think it'd be because Trump supporters are just going to say they're undecided. They'll eventually come home to Trump because of the social, desirability bias. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's not the case. Who knows? But either way, this is something that is rallying the troops behind Donald Trump. It's not like he's losing support. Even you have Susan Collins, of all people. The liberals are very upset at this. Susan Collins, one of the biggest rhinos in the Senate. She gets a pass more so than others because she's from Maine, which is a blue state. But still, even she, who's up for re-election in 2026 and probably would be up for re-election in a year that would not be favorable to Republicans, assuming Trump does win, she's coming out and basically saying that the district attorney was out of line, campaigning on a promise to prosecute Trump. So if these types of people who have never backed Trump once are at least giving him the benefit of the doubt here, it kind of shows that he's not losing support in the political establishment. He's not losing support of people that actually have pull from what we see. And even the Biden campaign is kind of downplaying this and saying, they're agreeing with Trump in the statement they put out that the real verdict is November and that regardless of this case, Trump still could be president. And they're right. And in doing so, you might say it's politically advantageous that they'll acknowledge this because they don't want to make people complacent. But, at the same time, they're not really capitalizing themselves on top of it or trying to tie themselves to it at the same time, which possibly means that they're not going to try to use this as something to bring Trump down, which might be positive in some ways for them and negative electorally in other ways for them. Either way, we know Biden's been behind this and his team's been behind this. We know. It might take a while for the conspiracy theorists or whatever they want to say to be proven right, but they will be proven right. There's no way around it. The only reason why he was indicted once was because of the election and the fact that he ran for a second term, a non-contiguous second term, and then boom, there he goes, gets indicted. And he got indicted not only once, but then they indicted him on a bunch of other things because once you get one to go, the rest go. And if you don't think that Trump would be found guilty in these other cases, you'd probably be wrong except for Florida because that a judge and jury both tend to be a little bit more favorable to him because it's in his backyard. And that's a jury of his peers and a judge of his peers, not like what we're seeing in the state of New York. Not anything like what we're seeing. So that's that. And we'll get to super chats in a minute, but I just want to say that people need to make sure they get involved. People need to make sure that they don't let this demoralize. I don't think it is, though. I think it's backfiring in that sense. We'll see what the polls say, but it is backfiring in that sense. And who knows about the appeal process, how that's going to work out. It might take a few courts to go up before they finally find a judge pool that will somehow end up following the law correctly, or a jury pool or whatever. But still, when you're looking at this case, it's something that could be used as fuel to the fire. And on top of it, in terms of the RNC, 4 days before the RNC, they're going to start doing the whole sentencing thing. They'll go through that. So if that's still going to be the case, regardless of however the appeal is going to work out, Trump, basically, Trump's going to have his surrogates rallying for him at the RNC while Donald Trump is sitting there in a courtroom. And I think that's a good optics thing for Trump in a way, because it's showing that the system is holding him back in front of tens of millions of people. So you're seeing that. You're seeing that. And it's a shame, because Trump actually had a good lawyer for once in his life. The previous lawyer's the reason why the other side even tried to have a case to begin with, even though it was an awful case that they had. And he puts a case together. Every legal scholar agrees it's bogus. And still, boom, there it goes. There it goes. There it goes. They don't care about the rule of law. They want to get Donald Trump. They want to convict him. And you'll never see the inverse, too. Biden, they let him go because he's feeble and old, but somehow he's still fit to be president, even though he clearly is not he's not mentally with it enough to be tried effectively for showing people classified documents, and it's proven. This is not like some Trump case in Florida where there's more nuance to it. He had these documents. He couldn't have them as vice president. He couldn't take them from the White House as vice president at all. He did not have the authority of declassification, but still, for decades upon decades, these boxes of classified documents were found in his garage, in the middle of nowhere. And he was allegedly, they even prove it, his own Department of Justice, that he was showing them to people. But no, it's okay because he's old and forgetful and friendly, old grandfatherly dude, or whatever they want to say. Oh no, it's all a stutter, by the way. It's all a stutter. It doesn't matter that 5 years ago he was actually mentally, complacent and with it. So, what can I say? But in terms of this, it's just a mess. So we'll get to super chats. Right now, we've got quite a few of them. 1,500 people in chat. Like, subscribe, super chat if you want. If you can't, but you have the money to, send it to Trump. It's more important right now. But absolutely. Republican Liberal says, donated to a politician for my first time today and plan on doing it monthly. Enough is enough. Thank you for the super chat. And it's true. A lot of people are donating to Trump. And a lot of people you look at the betting odds, which again are not a good indicator for the election, but Trump didn't go down substantially. He didn't go up, but he was up by 18. Now he's up by 14, and he's going up again based off of the recent trends. So depends on the next round of polling or two to really decide if this is going to impact the election one way or another. I personally think it's not going to, but we'll see. It could help him. I'm not ready to say that, but we'll have to see. Would also be funny if Trump announced his VP pick while he's being sentenced. That would also be funny because it's right before the convention, and that's when Trump has hinted that he will pick his VP by closer to the convention, so we'll have to see. Apex Caliber says, how much does this expand the electoral map with Virginia as a tie in the latest New York poll showing Biden up by 6 points with RFK, 35 to 40 state Trump win? I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm not saying this is going to expand or contract the election map. Maybe it will in one way or another. I think we'll have to see. I think we're going to have a much better idea of what's going on in the next couple of weeks or so. But no, Trump is not done. Trump is definitely not done. I don't believe he's going to jail. In fact, the same betting markets, if you look at them, they showed 80-some% for a conviction before, but then jail time is down there in the teens. So again, even the betting odds are showing that Donald Trump is, 83% chance he's not going to end up in jail. We know that he's probably not going to jail. And there's really no major concerns that I have at that point. But in terms of this election, we will have to see. So in terms of its effect, Punch a Bunch Bear for 10 says, Rep, I've been warning people that Biden may get reelected because of suburban bimbos who hate Trump and our angry row was overturned. Well, I think that Trump possibly is going to do a little bit better in the suburbs, even with this conviction, just because of the fact that Biden is just despised and the whole Roe thing didn't stick. I mean, you look at the polls in Arizona after that ruling, you would have thought that would be the one case where it would have instantly impacted the race, but Trump still went up because there's other things at play. Trump is kind of doing the best possible strategy with abortion, saying, I returned it to the states. A lot of people wanted it to the states. Some of these bans are a little bit, too extreme. Some are going to be more extreme than others, but that's his position. And I think that's a position that is a winning one. And the problem with Republicans in the midterms is in some of these candidates, they were running like these full-on abolitionists without exceptions in very, very competitive states. And they didn't exactly do very well against Democrats that were relatively strong, and the whole COVID lockdown stuff wasn't quite enough to make up the difference. So there's plenty of reasons for that. But the abortion thing, I'm not worried in Trump's case. If Ron DeSantis was the nominee, I think it would be a major issue for the record, or if any of these other people were the running mates, and maybe even depending on who Trump's VP was, he's not going to pick somebody who's too much of a hardliner on it or makes it their number one issue. Dean Cream Between says no one wins ultimately. The USA is permanently divided. Oh, it is very divided. Absolutely. I don't believe that it's entirely fair to make the claim that this is going to be like, oh, everybody's going to unite and everything's going to be perfect even if Trump wins. That's not the case. I mean, you're seeing this. It's a deep-rooted problem. Yeah, there's some positive things going on. Feels like we are turning the woke wave tide a little bit. It's more socially acceptable to support Trump now than it was back in the day. In 2020, every institution that was neutral became liberal. Even the ones that were neutral before, liberal before, they were all very, very much on the left. You don't see that now. You don't. And we talk about celebrity endorsements not mattering. They really don't. But there is something to the fact that Biden's celebrity endorsement list is so piss poor. I don't know, maybe later on in the stream we'll pull it up because it's so bad. And Trump's is growing and he gains more when these type of things come about, because it's just so blatantly obvious. Everybody knows it's bogus. Everybody knows if they want to admit it or not. They could say, oh, I don't like Trump, but I want him in jail anyways if he committed a crime or not. You know what? That's honesty. It's ridiculous, but it's honesty. But that's what these people really believe. If you have liberals who are willing to come forward and say that, they'll gain a little bit of respect, not a big amount, obviously, but at least in terms of their straightforward intentions, it's honest. But they can't be honest because it's so off. Their honesty would be so off-putting. Citrus Peppercorn says, I think Abbott needs to send some buses of asylum seekers to New York City. Well, I mean, he already has bust from what I understand. I don't think that sending illegal aliens further into the country is going to solve our problems either. I really don't. I was critical of DeSantis when he did the Massachusetts thing, because it's like, okay, it's more to own the libs. These people are like now apparently going to have more of a mandate to stay because of this. You have to find a way to coordinate with the state government, with the federal government, to get these people out of there. And that's the thing. I'd rather have them buy a plane personally or have a private jet, trick these people into the private jet and ship them back to the country where they came from. He's going to be called a human trafficker either way. At least send them back to where they came from, where they belong. They didn't enter the country fairly. Now you have a mandate to deport these people. Before, you didn't have a mandate to. They were saying, well, it's mass deportations. That's harsh. You have millions of new people. You need to get every illegal alien out of the country. And you used to never be able to say that, but now you could say that in a hell of a lot more, and it's not going to make an impact. You're not going to be negatively impacted. The Overton window is shifting in a very good way. So there is a lot to look up about in regards to the way the public's viewing things, but it is a painful thing to see when you have the system so broken, and that's exactly what it is. Citrus Peppercorn says, will we get another $50 million tonight? I don't know. From what I understand, Republican donors have pledged millions upon millions because of this alone. That's like big donors. He's getting other donors, big donors that he didn't have in the primary. They're coming aboard. And maybe the Haley endorsement giving him, access to big money is not a bad thing. Just depends on if hopefully he's not going to be answering to these people too much in terms of who he puts in the cabinet or whatever. But he has to win, period. And he has to go out there and make sure that he can govern better than his first term, ideally, because you're going to need to undo a lot of this damage that Biden has done. But still, I don't know how much he's going to get. I'm sure we're going to find out soon. I sent him at least 4 figures. And I would encourage, if other people can, to send him as much as they can. But I know if some people, they can only send $2. But that still helps. If every Trump voter gave $1, he'd have $80 million. If they gave $1 a month, he'd have like, I'd say close to a few $100 million in excess than he has right now. I mean, that's the way it goes. Samuel Harrison says, how do I donate without entering my employer in? I don't think you have to, I don't think have to tell them where you work or whatever. I think they do that because they want to gauge what industries are donating to them. So maybe, I don't know, self-employed. It depends. I don't think that matters. I'd check campaign law on that, see if that's like a requirement. I don't think Trump is the only person that's doing that, but what can I say? Merc IWNL says, I don't know if it's a grift, but I'm seeing many cases of people saying they had no intention of voting for Trump, but they are now. No, I don't care if it's a grift or not. Look, we have to win. We got a lot of grifters, but grifters are people, it's a compliment in a way. They get successful, they get a lot of reach, and, people call me a grifter. I don't think that that's true, for the record, but it kind of just shows I'm jealous of you because you're not as good at business as I am. And some people, yeah, they are grifting. They're not being honest or straightforward. But if that's what they're claiming, look, you have grifters on the other side, and it works out for them. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, all these neocons, they're grifters. They're not clinging to principle, because if they were, they wouldn't be backing Biden either. But they're grifting on the other side. So if people want to join our side, have at it. I don't care who they backed in the primary, who they backed in 2016, 2020. They need to be welcome on board, but here's the deal. By the time it comes to put people in cabinet positions or in certain primaries or whatever, yeah, the OG should have more of a say. It's just how it should work. The OG should have the biggest say. So long as people are not trying to co-opt things, there's nothing wrong with opening the tent, having people on board, but they got to obey by the rules that the OG set. And that's fine. They're welcome. The big tent isn't necessarily a bad thing, but yes, it can be a problem at times if we don't go about it the right way, but we don't have to do that right now because it's an election year. Andrew Mortensen says, I donated a boatload today for DJT. I know the economy is rough right now, but he needs our help more than ever. Our system's rigged and Biden's corrupt. It's true. Orange Pill Nurse is donating to MAGA Tier Fund. I don't know if that's supposed to be like anti-MAGA or pro, but I'll take the money, and it's going straight up the chain to the orange man of 47 himself. Tom Sapp for 5 says, what is his site so I can donate? The mods can put it in chat. Citrus Peppercorn says, I got my first MAGA hat tonight. Well, congratulations. This is not my first one, but it is one of them. Not entirely sure if I remember how authentic it is or not, but I probably will get one that is authentic at some point. I should buy more Trump gear, even if I don't wear it a whole lot. It is good for the stream. John Waffle H2 pieces, how come Republicans don't produce lawyers anymore? Well, this is the problem with Republicans. And I'm not saying everybody, but they're like, well, don't go to college, become a plumber, go to trade school. It's like some people, I think it's a good thing to do. If you would only go to college for some like mid-wit degree, gender studies is what, like, of those people should, yes, the people that are dumb go to college, maybe they get indoctrinated, whatever. But, is college really left, as people say? Honestly, at a time I said yes, and there is like a class or like I would say like an educational income divide in terms of voting, especially among white people. And that's true. You have the college whites that are more liberal now, then you have the non-college whites who are more conservative. And it wasn't always exactly that way. But still, Republicans need to go to college. Your kids do need to go to college. You see all this talk about Harvard and all these liberal schools and whatever. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of liberals and chaos, but at the end of the day, you got to go to the best school you can get into. You got to make sure, yeah, exactly. Some of the Alvin Bragg graduated from law school. Think about that. And you're telling kids not to go to college. We need competent people. The few people we have, Alvin Bragg, did he get into Harvard because he was intelligent? Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure what his LSAT scores were. They probably were below a 170. He probably got in because of affirmative action. But when it comes down to it, it's like, yeah, we need to You need to work hard. You need to go to college if you can go to college. Some people are not smarter than others, and that's okay. Some people are not capable of becoming a doctor or a lawyer or, a professor or whatever. I think that in terms of professors and that debacle, I think that needs to be more of people who become experts in their field first, and then they, eventually teach. But we need to take back the institutions. You can't do that if everybody's going to be working, as a welder or a plumber. Now, some people, I think some people should be that. I mean, we talk about certain degrees being useless. Yeah, freeze them out of the DEI degrees. There's no need to get a DEI degree. There's no need. But in terms of the actual degrees, and I wish I got a degree that probably would have taught me something a little bit more. But in political science is pretty useless unless you're going to law school, which again I am. So it's a little bit different here. But if I got like a business degree, probably would have learned a lot more for like business, for example. Which I'm not saying you can't learn a lot of skills without a degree, because you can. But you need to go to college if you can. If you can and you don't, you're doing everybody a disservice. Yes. Oh, well, the professors are biased. I had a biased professor. I dropped the class because I knew I couldn't get a good grade in that class, and I couldn't stand to listen to even 10 minutes of the first day of lecture. I said, no, I'm not doing that. Dropped out of the course. So we'll see. The people that are asking if I'm in law school, I'm not in law school. I will be in law school eventually, but I did graduate a few years ago from undergrad. But not everybody's going to want to be a lawyer, and that's fine. But you need a lot of people in high up positions, marketing departments, PR. That's what really matters. A lot of the CEOs are not of these woke corporations. They're not necessarily very liberal socially. A lot of them might even give money to Trump. But it's mainly the marketing departments and things like that were doing all the woke DEI stuff back in the day, and that's kind of been a big issue for the whole woke capitalism thing. So it does come from taking over the institutions within, boycotting everything's not going to do it. Maybe it worked with Bud Light because, again, you have a lot of competition. Bud Light's not very good. It's not a very good light beer. There's plenty of other mediocre light beers to choose from, and that's that. But in terms of a lot of other stuff that's going on, well, I encourage people to make sure that they can do what they need to do to be successful and take back the institutions. And mainly that's something for the younger generation. So that's that. Now, let's see. Rye Guy 1218 says this whole case was it is bullshit. There's no other way to say it. I don't like swearing a whole lot. I don't do it every single time on the air, but I really feel as if this time you have to say it's bullshit, because I can't think of a better word to describe it, and that is the way that it goes. Somebody put the website in chat. Tom Sav is still asking for the site. Do we have a moderator? If not, I could put it in. Go to my Twitter. It's the pinned tweet. It's my pinned tweet on Twitter. Let's see. Tyler Kerp says donating cash is good, but donating time and get people to vote. Call everyone you know. Reach out to Scott Pressler and register voters. MAGA24. So true. It's not just Scott Pressler. He's one guy, but I feel like there needs to be thousands because he's one guy. Everybody's like, he'll save us. It's like, he does good work, but I can't exactly sit back here and say that we need to put our hopes and dreams on one person registering voters single-handedly. Even if they, register 1,000, it's not enough. We need other people doing it and getting involved. And look what we're doing. I mean, I did a video a couple days ago on the whole thing, and it's working wonders. It's working big wonders in terms of the registrations that at least from what I covered in the video, because even young people in Pennsylvania, they're registering Republican in every county. The counties are shifting right across multiple competitive swing states. It's a good thing. Clark County's getting redder and redder in terms of registration. Nevada might flip in registration by election day. North Carolina, the gap is closing. That's with independents leaning right. And yeah, voter registration's not entirely everything, but it is encouraging. It's not a bad thing for Donald Trump that, he's going out there. Republicans are registering voters by the hundreds of thousands in all these swing states that he fell short in by, not quite a big margin. Trevor Hint says anyone who says it hurts Trump is an idiot. Yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt him. I really don't. I think that there is a little bit of skepticism because, even now, even though we've seen the indictments, it's like, but a conviction's different, right? And maybe it's a little different. I don't know. I think that if it does hurt him, it's going to be a temporary drop. He probably will go back up. I don't even think he's going to drop very much. If he does drop, he might even go up. So, yeah, I don't know who is like, I'm voting for Trump, but I can't vote for him now if he's convicted. It's like, if you understand the trial and he's convicted, it's bullshit. As somebody put it, there's no other way to put it. Citrus Peppercorn says, how many donations you think in 24 hours? Well, the mugshot was 20 million. I think you would have to say that this would be a little bit more than that. I don't know to what extent it's going to be, but we'll see. Apex Caliber says Biden could also use this to escape the debates. Well, by that logic, Trump needs to stand there with an empty podium and debate the empty podium, and it would make Biden look weak. This is not like some Katie Hobbs situation in Arizona where a lot of people don't really care about statewide debates, or a John Fetterman situation. Biden has a record. He's president of the United States. He's already being very cowardly by debating in June. But I think Biden will still debate because, if the numbers don't show Trump falling off a cliff, Biden's still going to be not favored. And you could say Biden can win. I agree 100% he can win. But at the end of the day, anyone telling you that Biden's the favorite is not living in reality, because there's really no metric that shows him to be the favorite that you could point to and be like, that's definitive. So there you go. Let's see. Mayor of Baseville for 10 says, Christ is king, Trump is POTUS. Well, we got to make Trump POTUS, and we got to pray for that too. So let's see. We got more super chats. I lost this. We have so many that I've lost where I was in chat, but okay, there we go. Citrus Peppercorn says the fourth will show us Trump having a higher percentage than Biden in every state. The fourth? I don't quite, I don't know what you mean by that. But the Sandwich Man says Christ will return soon. Remember that what happens, however awful the future is, keep your eyes on the glory of God. Thank you. It's true. Very true. Sam Madsen says, so was that Truth Social juror a stealth juror? I don't know. They could have been a Trump hater, or they could have been lying. Maybe they were a stealth juror. They also followed Michael Cohen on Twitter, but so do a lot of mutuals I have, and they don't like him. So I don't know. I think the fact you have somebody in this trial to begin with that's that invested one way or another is probably not a good look, but it would have been good if it helped us. But yeah, it's like you can't find a fair jury in this country. It's like going to Montgomery County, Texas, or even you'd have to go to a redder place than that. And you would have to search through a jury pool. You're going to get Biden convicted. You're going to get Biden. They'll put him on death row at that point, just because of the jury. It doesn't matter what crime he committed or didn't commit. If you took the Department of Justice's investigation to trial like they should have about the classified documents for Biden, well, I mean, easily it would, if you put that in a deep red state, it would have landed at least in a conviction. I don't know. But then again, Republicans don't do this type of stuff. I mean, they couldn't in that case, but they don't indict because I don't know, they're just afraid to poke the bear. But we see what the bear's doing when we're not doing it. Trump didn't want to put Hillary in jail because, well, the country would have, he wanted to heal a divided country, which, sounds nice. It sounds good on paper. Oh, we're all going to unite behind Trump and he's going to make the country great again. And we're going to leave that in the past. But in reality, you see what happens. They don't do the same thing. They don't do it. And then we look like we're fools. That's not to say that we don't have good intentions at times, but this whole, we can't target them if they're targeting us, or because they're going to target us. They're already doing it, and that's the problem. Like, I agree, it's not a good precedent to set, but yeah, Trump is going to come back on these people with revenge. Absolutely. There's no reason for him not to. He's got a chip on his shoulder. If he gets back in there, there's going to be a lot of investigations and people being thrown in prison. I mean, I don't know what putting Biden in prison is going to do, because he doesn't really know. He probably doesn't even know what prison is. At this point, he would just think it's a nursing home. But What can I say? Citrus Peppercorn says the libertarian being a leftoid will make more of a difference than this conviction. Maybe. I mean, you could say the conviction could help him. The indictments clearly did. I mean, if you just take the indictment bump away, Trump is still 50-50 with Biden. Apex Caliber says, how can he take the nom virtually if from house arrest? I don't think he's going to be in house arrest. I think he's going to find a way to appeal, and that's going to delay it past the election. It takes him a very long time to hear the appeals. So it depends on if he gets sentenced or whatever. Could get probation. They could be trying to throw the... If they actually do that, if the conviction doesn't hurt him and actually helps him, jail time, that's really... They're playing with fire. They are playing with fire that we've never even discovered before in terms of how hot that fire would be. Elk 3 says, Democrat first-time donor to Trump and to you. Hello? Really? Is that the case? Well, are you like you're switching today, or are you've been like a Trump-aligned Democrat or whatever? That's a question that I'd have. That's very intriguing. J.R. Williams says, what deep blue state does Trump have a chance to win? Yeah, I don't think he's going to flip any deep blue states, but I think he will gain in some like New York and New Jersey and probably, I mean, maybe if you want to say like a dark horse, like a New Mexico or Virginia might be, close, but I don't know if it's going to be a flip. Still need polling out of New Mexico. I don't know what's taking them so long. We got 5 months to go before the election, and we haven't had any nonpartisan polls since 2022. BG says these corrupt people haven't taken it this far to give him probation. They'll put him in jail market. Well, they may have to. It depends. If part of it is politics, they want to make sure it hurts him as much as possible. But at the end of the day, could they just be doing it to humiliate him? That's also possible. That's blatant election interference. Biden throwing his political opponent in jail, because that's what it is, to save his own ass. Because that's what it is doing, to save his own ass. Putting him in jail to save his own ass. If that's what his attempt is here, that's what he's trying to do. Well, I think you can make the case it could be the backfire of a century, because the country's in shambles. Nobody likes Biden, and now he's trying to put his opponent in jail or on trial so they can't campaign. And it's over bullshit. Literally, there's no crime. That's the thing. It's not like it's a selective prosecution either. There's no set crime. They even were told they didn't even have to agree on what the guilty verdict was, so long as they were agreeing on some form of guilt. And you talk about a jury pool that's 90%, against Trump. It's a more rigged trial than even the Chauvin trial. Even the Chauvin trial, which we've been through, and it was the wrong verdict objectively. Basically claiming that Chauvin had, he premeditated the murder of George Floyd. He had not only intentionally, he intentionally tried to kill him and planned it out. That's not, you can't even make the case for that, even if you wanted to say that, yeah, the knee on the neck aided or sped up the process. I mean, based on what I understand, it was a move in the Minnesota or Minneapolis police handbook. It's been removed now, but whether you think that he killed him or not, well, he was just following their own protocol. Maybe the protocol is not the good protocol, but either way, he was on fentanyl, said he couldn't breathe before he got in the ground. Boom. You can't say that that's first or second degree murder, but they gave him everything because that's what they did, because you talk about the jury pool and, we also don't want chaos. We want to put somebody in jail. Then he gets stabbed. The blood's on their hands too for that, because that was intentional. Whether you think that the Floyd thing was slightly unethical conduct, it doesn't matter. That's the thing. And now we know about everything. We didn't know about it back then. If the full video came out initially, it wouldn't have even gone viral. I mean, I've watched that video 5-10 times. I've watched it so many times, it's not healthy. But, when I was making videos and content about that in 2021, there's no way that they could come away from this case and say that, this is some murder. But what can I say? This is far worse. This is far worse because this is election interference. Election interference of the highest order. And there's no crime. Literally no crime. But what can I say? We did that one. Jones Johnson says, I used to be an independent, supported Biden in 2020. I had a political awakening and am now supporting Trump. I'm sick of seeing this persecution. I'm telling people it's happening. The suburbs saying, oh, well, the suburbs and independents are going to turn away from. Are they really? Are they guaranteed? I'm sure some people might, but some people are going to turn away from one candidate or another for the, weakest possible reasons. The undecided voters are, what can I say? Man Dorian says, on an unrelated note, after hearing the verdict on all counts, which they wanted to do in under 3 minutes, I saw on 538 Michigan was showing Trump at plus 1.8, which before it was plus 0.8. Well, that's just because a poll fell out of the aggregate. That's timing. That's not fully related to that. But it is true that I don't think that this is going to be like a dagger in Trump's chances at all. No, I don't. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in a couple weeks in the polls, but I don't feel like I will be. Been right about a hell of a lot more this cycle than pretty much all other people, from the initial primaries on to who drops out first, to Super Tuesday, to who wins that, to all this other stuff. All this talk about, oh, your record, this, that, and the other. It's been pretty accurate over the past couple years. Since the midterms, it's been relatively accurate. I knew Trump would run. He ran. I knew that the establishment would line up behind the others. They did. I said Trump would be helped by these indictments and the mugshot when others said he'd be over. They did help him. So, conviction, maybe it doesn't move the needle because it's already so baked into the cake, but you could very well make the case it could help him just as much, as, if not more, than you could make the case that it's going to hurt him. BB says Manhattan jury would have always found him guilty. Exactly. Citrus Peppercorn says I meant small donors for 50 mil. I know. I don't know what they're going to raise, though. So we'll see. Wyatt says if Trump loses, the country is finished. They think they can get away with this. I don't think they can understand what they've done. Well, Wyatt, wait a minute. You're telling me you're going to vote for a convicted felon? Like, that's how some of these people think. That's how they're arguing. And it's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, there needs to be some way to spin the convicted felon thing and make it like a positive thing. Seriously. Security TV says, I was voting for Trump before. Now he's convinced. Now he's convicted. I'm voting for him even more. Now he's a felon. Maybe we need a real gangster to clean house. Well, the difference is that, like, the real gangsters that would be cleaning house actually committed crimes. That's the difference. That's the difference here. Like, the people that are trying to equate this to the Hillary stuff, it's like, no, because Hillary actually committed a crime, but it was obviously bad, and they basically threw her indictment in the garbage because of the fact that, she's running for president. We can't do this. We don't want to touch this. We don't want Trump to win, so we're going to throw her indictment in the garbage, and they did. So past that point, it's like they're not the same. She actually did it. There actually was a crime. People have gone and gotten life in jail for less. Meanwhile, Trump, on the other hand, it's the literal opposite thing. It's the same exact principle because, the justice system is being broken once again, targeting political opposition while letting other people go free because the deep state is real. It's been proven, and they have an agenda. I'm proud of you, 37. Thank you for 5. Fugmai Gadim says, Ann Coulthard says these idiot libs may have just gotten Trump elected. Well, she's fallen off. She hasn't been relevant for a very long time. If she tries to claw her way back, I'm sure she will find a way. And it is what it is. If she wants to tell her followers to vote Trump or whatever, why is it a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing. It's the same thing with Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is horrendous. In my opinion, she is a vile individual in regards to a lot of things. But if she wants to support Trump and Trump wants to, make her Secretary of Transportation in exchange for it, and she actually helps her primary voters turn to him a little bit more, I don't care. The Secretary of Transportation is a useless position. Hopefully she's not in the cabinet at all, but, if it means that, she's in an irrelevant position, fine. The problem with her last time was that she was in a very relevant position, not even in his cabinet, where she could do a lot of damage. That's the problem. But besides the point, Dustin Enoch says we need conservative minds in all higher education fields. It's true. Kaiser of Third Age says I'm going to college for my profession, not ideals. Well, exactly. But I think that at the end of the day, there are people who need to, think if they actually care about the cause and they're passionate about something, but also could channel that in a way that could advance the ideals, I think that that's like a good thing. Jonathan Williams says, never make a blanket statement such as college is a scam. It's only a scam if you major in galactic gender studies, STEM degree in law, not so much. Exactly. It's a scam for a lot of people. Part of the reason why costs are through the roof is because of DEI initiatives and everything like that. They're bloated, and they just hurt everyone in society because they're putting people in fields because of their identity one way or another than putting them in fields because of their own merits. Tom Sav says, where's the web? We already covered that. I think that we got that done. It's pinned on Twitter. Dustin Enoch says, we need conservative teachers, so few with them. I agree. I think that in terms of high school and college, probably more, important. But I mean, even at the lower levels, it's very formative years of development. If they're teaching kids all this stuff, all this alphabet stuff, this is very inappropriate. And it needs to get out of schools. And I think that part of that is actually the job of the state governments as well. Peter Gabriel self-suck for 10 says, what are your thoughts on the voter registration inconsistencies in Texas? I've covered this probably 50 times already, for one. For two, if you're referencing the Tim Pool report, it's not real. It's not wrong. It's not right. I don't know what that one website is showing. It showed the same thing in the midterms. They're gaining 1 million voters a week. It's not mathematically sustainable, for one. And for two, the Secretary of State in Texas, Republican, came out and said that they only have had, a little fraction of that of people that have registered. So, I do think there's probably going to be a few illegals that'll finesse their way into Social Security numbers. I mean, you still need an ID to vote. Technically, you do need an ID. Even if you can register without one, it's still very iffy in how they could even get that done, but they haven't been doing it at that level. So I feel like it's kind of just I don't know. There's a lot of fake news that goes around, and I think it's meant to demoralize people, actually. Because if they say, and I'm not saying that's what Tim Pool is doing, because he's not the first one to promote the story, but in terms of the whole demoralization, they want the fraud narrative now to be everywhere. That's why certain terms of services, you could say certain things now you couldn't say then. And that's not to say that they're agreeing with the stance more so than, it demoralizes people, so they want people talking about it. There's legitimate concerns. I'm not saying there's not. There are legitimate concerns, but we clearly can beat the concerns. If we couldn't, they wouldn't be putting Trump possibly in jail or trying to put him in jail. Marilyn Degatti 83 says, do you think the RNC will nominate Trump despite sentencing starting July 15th? And now that, they're going to nominate him regardless, and sentence starts a few days before. I'm proud of you 37 says, as a left-wing person, it's hard to be on the, hold up, wait, I lost it. Okay, there we go. On the left, because unless you hate Trump, you won't get far. Rhinos with TDS get more respect than true leftists. I mean, that's their problem, for the record, but it is true that it's mainly just about they will do anything possible to take down Trump. It's the same concept. M says conservatives must start practicing incrementalism. True. Apex Caliber says Chip Roy said the RNC should move the convention up. I mean, I don't know what that's going to do. It really just depends on what happens. Should it be moved up? I mean, you want it close enough to the election. I don't think that Chip Roy's somebody who really likes Trump all that much either, for the record. Voting record's not the worst, but he's the guy crying tears for Liz Cheney back in the day and, yelling at people about Ron DeSantis being better than Trump, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, the guy, if he didn't have TDS, he would be good, but his TDS is very strong. So I don't know what his real motivation is in saying that. M says Dems are gaining slightly in Clark County, but most people are registering nonpartisan. It will be interesting to see how those people vote. Well, Nevada as a whole is getting redder. So if they gain a tiny bit here and there, still statewide, they are definitely losing ground. Unless you're comparing the active versus the non-active. I'm not entirely sure how you're doing it, but Polite Rude Guy says Texas for Trump. So true. Tom Sav says, thank you, just donated 25. Well, thank you. Every bit helps. You don't have to send 1,000 or max donation or whatever, But people need to give what they can. And some people, they're living paycheck to paycheck. I get it. They can't give very much at all. But for the people that make six figures or whatnot, they should be giving at least a few hundred. They absolutely should if they can. But even then, I understand everything costs more. Not everybody can afford that. If their cost of living constraints, everyone's are different. But if they have excess, well, then they should be. They should do it. Gabster13B says Joyless Reed on MSDNC said this would have only happened at a Dem state like New York and not a Republican state, basically admitting it. Of course, yeah, they're admitting it's rigged. And they say the Supreme Court is rigged. The Supreme Court's rigged because, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but then you see certain flags that Alito's hanging outside of his house. That's perfectly fine to question that decision. But then it's a different ball game when it comes to Trump. You're a threat to democracy. We must silence you. We must destroy your livelihoods if you dare to speak out about it. Although I feel like they're not being as effective at doing that as they were before. Which is kind of crazy because Donald Trump has been running a much more solid campaign this time than 2020. But still, you see a vastly different climate shift, at least on the ground, because this is not affecting Trump. Back in the day, maybe it would, but they've just overplayed their hand so much to the point where it's backfiring beautifully, or hopefully it will. Citrus Peppercorn says, I meant the elections on June 4th. Well, what was your last super chat about? I don't know what you said. Oh, yeah. In terms of the primaries, Trump having a higher percentage than Biden, absolutely. It's possible. Especially with the Haley endorsement for Trump, now you're not going to have as many liberals crossing over for her because they don't like her either. Because they're like, oh, she's siding with the enemy, which is kind of delusional because we know why she's doing it, but what can I say? She probably will, but there's only a few primaries left, so it's not going to make a big impact. American Exceptionalist, thank you for becoming a new member. Polite Rude Guy says, we do not get demoralized. God wins, Trump 2024, so true. Sam Madsen says, Alvin Bragg only won 71-29 in the same ballot that even Hochul won 84-15. Interesting. MSU fan says, will the other cases be done before the election? No. At most, you could have the D.C. trial start, but it's very unlikely that even happens at this point. And what will the Supreme Court do? Possibly gut that case as well. Jonathan Williams says Chauvin jury voted in fear of their safety. Absolutely. I don't think there is a fear of safety for the Trump jury, though, which makes it even worse. Manny says, should Trump weaponize the FCC if elected? Well, I don't know how he would have to do that. The FCC, like the communications department that controls like what can be said on TV or not? Are you talking about the FEC, which is the FEC actually threw this case out because it wasn't strong. There was no evidence, and then this fat lunatic in New York picked it back up. Fat Alvin. Joseph Zamborski says, today it felt like your kid was hit by a bully and you were 5 feet away. Today is our time to put this to an end. Donate to Trump and say this shit ends today. Well, Trump's a little bit more than a kid, but yeah, in a way he is becoming defenseless because the system, the law, the legal system reigns supreme, and they can just push people around, and Donald Trump is the one being pushed around. Gerald Armstrong says GOP can't play, oh shucks, we'll get him next time routine anymore. I want a Biden impeachment after he leaves office. There's a precedent. Exactly. It's not gonna pass in the Senate, but I wouldn't care if they did that. I wouldn't care if they did it one bit. Or why not just indict him instead? Find a way to reopen a case, just like the FEC threw out the Trump hush money thing. Well, can we possibly retry or start to try Biden for the whole classified documents thing? Because that's only fair. Biden was showing him to people. His ghostwriter. It's on record. What can I say? Fug My Godim says felons are better than pedos. It's true. There's nothing wrong with being a felon if you're a felon for doing something that you can't do. It'd be interesting, though, if he was in a state where he couldn't vote. That would be interesting. President can't even vote for himself because he's a felon. Brutal. I don't know how it is in Florida. You have to pay back the fees, I think. Is he even going to be able to do that? I don't know. Or maybe because he's appealing. I don't know how that would work. Let's see. MSU fan says Herschel Walker should run for office again. I'd rather him not. He lost because he was not a good candidate. He couldn't complete a sentence. He was like the Republican Fetterman, except if Fetterman was a Republican, he'd be a joke. I mean, Herschel, seems like a good guy. A lot of people probably in Georgia would disagree about the whole scandal thing, but yeah, we need people running for office that can win and that are solid, know the issues well. Max DeGently says, do nothing. Republicans can't do anything wrong if they're not doing anything at all. Democrats are just so much worse, though. Well, they are worse. They are. You have a lot of people that don't really identify with the GOP, though, but they identify with Trump. Correct Mode says Biden's too old and incompetent to be convicted. I think that's how we spin the convicted felon label for Trump. Could at least help during debates. Well, he's got to craft a way around it. ISO says Canadians can't donate, so pass this along to him. I don't know if I legally can claim to do that, but, it's just the way money circulates, I guess. Elk3 says, hardcore dem till 2020, slow turn, today's the last straw. Well, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. See, that's the thing that a lot of people on the right, I think they're better at it than the left in many ways, but, it is true. People that want to join, I don't think that we need to say, well, you can't join because you did X, Y, and Z. If people see the light, they see the light. I get it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We're running a business. You can't put a sign up that says, well, if you went to our competitor, you're not allowed to come into our store. It's like, no. Shop here as much as you want. Doesn't mean I'm probably going to agree on everything, but it's just about winning an election, putting a coalition together. Jordan Rosenberg says convicted felon, more like convicted hero. That's true, but the hero arc has to be complete this November. I Am Charles says the House must investigate these Marxist criminals while they still have the power to do so. Will rhinos now attempt to remove Trump at the convention? They don't have the ability to. The fact that Haley and also DeSantis have gotten behind Trump to a certain degree kind of confirms that there's not this real effort that's going to be successful to overthrow him. I mean, it's clear that they would like to, but it would damage the party and they would never be able to come back from it. And I think they know that, even if they want to. Rye Guy1218 says, don't worry about Texas in 24. It's a waste of time. True. Joe Schmo says, crazy how establishment Biden just blatantly behave in the same way that they say we need to hate Russia and Putin for SMH. Just donated to Trump the first time. Yeah, Putin's taking notes. All the corrupt leaders around the world are taking notes. That does include Zelensky, by the way. He's also taking notes. You look at China, even North Korea's Kim Jong-un's probably taking notes. But if it backfires, then maybe their notes wouldn't be taken well, but at least they have comprehensive propaganda structures. We don't have as much as the left has tried to censor social media. Elon buying Twitter, I think, was very underrated in terms of changing the tides. J.R. Williams says, Benny lied on Timcast about AZ. Aliens can't vote. Well, they can't vote legally. Some might find a way to. I don't think it happens as much as some people think. It might be higher now because there's more of them. But still, I don't think it's going to be enough to overturn or change results. CCM28 says, Joe McCarthy continuously being proven right. M says, I was comparing active voters for March and April. That's interesting. I haven't looked at that. I was comparing it from 4 years ago, so maybe they got a bump. I don't know, a tiny bump. But if it's just a small bump, it's not that big of a deal. And how do we know which side the unaffiliateds are voting? I feel like they're probably more likely to back Trump a little bit now than before. But I'm comparing the overall trend from 2020 to now. It's looking good for Trump, so we'll see. Republican Liberal says it's a full movement now. The account Clown World on X just posted, I'm voting Trump and I'm no Republican. Well, they're a conservative account, it seems, but I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people are waking up. They're uniting, they're unifying, and I think it's a good thing because of how fake this is. This is fake. Everything Trump said about the system it is rigged. Whether people want to say, oh, they say he's a sore loser, X, Y, and Z, but he was screwed. He was screwed. Whether you want to debate on how he was screwed, we could debate, but he was screwed. You can't debate that. He was screwed. They worked overtime to change the outcome given several actions that they did. Whether you want to say it's not related to stuffed ballots or whatever, fine. But we know that what they did, and this is the same thing that they're doing then. I mean, censorship directed by the FBI to help Biden, changing the election laws of certain states and severely cutting down the ballot rejection rates just to give Biden a boost. We saw it all. We saw it all. Let's see. Gibran Salazar says, complete bullshit, gonna donate 100 to Trump right now. There you go. Jonathan Williams says, compare all of Trump's campaigns from 2016 to now. 2020 was the weakest of the three. 2016 was the best, but I mean, there's something to the new Trump that I feel like he's running a great campaign. I don't know if I'd put it above or below. I think it depends on if he's able to go out there and win, which I think he's obviously the favorite right now. Zeddy says, full-on show of revolution for Trump. Send this up. Exactly. Donate to Trump. Make sure you do it. Biden's probably going to try to fundraise off this too. We need to make sure we beat his. Period. Zeddy says, full-on show revolution. Oh, we did that one, I think. Dustin Enoch says, need to move away from weird celebrity candidates. Well, yeah, especially in these, down ballot races. Dr. Oz, he didn't have very many ties to Pennsylvania. He was not really much of a conservative. He was just a placeholder, and it didn't work out too well. John Fetterman was able to say, I'm a big dude, and my parents voted for Trump. It's like, okay, well, that's probably gonna resonate more with rural voters than a lot of people would think, especially because a lot of those people didn't always vote Republican and don't vote Republican down ballot. But yeah, I agree. We need people with political experience or people that are at least just competent. That's it. And we need people at the top of the ticket that can actually compete. And some places I think that we need to go full MAGA, and others probably find more, Ron Johnson type of people to win. Or like, Youngkin in Virginia, I wouldn't want him to be governor of Wyoming. But because he's Virginia, it's a Biden state, Biden by double digits. It's like, yeah, he's relatively solid for Virginia. It doesn't mean I want to make him president, but we have to pick the best person that could win in every single state. And I like Dr. Oz. I tried to pull for him. It didn't work out too well. And no, Fetterman is not a conservative. He's all rhetoric. He's like it's funny because he's basically going to be the most moderate Democrat in the Senate. That's not to say he's actually a moderate. It's to say that he's, rhetorically playing well to the people of Pennsylvania, but also just the fact that he's definitely it's more, what I'm trying to say is it's more of a sign that the party is just moving to the extreme on pretty much everything. No pro-life Democrats in the Senate anymore. No socially conservative on any issue Democrats in the Senate. And they'll all just fall in line. Michael B says, who do you think Trump favors as his VP now? I have no idea. I wish I could tell you. I have no idea. Eric from Wisconsin for 10 says, donated to Trump today. Also need to remind my Wisconsin peeps to support Eric Hovde. Tammy Baldwin needs to go. That's true. That's true. FM32047 says, Lichtman's delusional about keys 4, 5, 6, and 8. Well, let me see what keys those are because I don't know them offhand. But they're subjective. Keys are definitely subjective. They have been right more than they've been wrong because, yeah, it's obvious. If the economy's doing well, yeah, the president probably gets reelected, obviously. But the difference is people don't perceive the economy to be well. And public perception is only what matters. So keys 5 and 6 are about the economy. It's like, yeah, and he's given Bush, I think the key that he didn't technically get in '04 because he's like, well, it's because of 9/11 or whatever. But the Biden economy is had strong growth because of COVID reopenings, which had nothing to do with him. And people don't credit him for it, which is the main issue. As for no third party, that key is so weird that it's there because it's like, oh, well, the third party candidate is going to take votes away. It's like, well, wait a minute, because if you have a third party that's significant but right-leaning, wouldn't they take from Trump? But if you have one that's significant and left-leaning, let's say Trump was the incumbent, Biden was the challenger, then they'd take more from Biden. So it doesn't fully add up, in my opinion. I don't think there is a significant third party, but I just don't agree with the key itself because third parties, it would depend on who they take votes from. So key 8, no social unrest. I mean, that one's iffy. We don't have full-scale riots. We do have stuff on college campuses, though. It's not a good look for Biden. They could take it to the streets. Lichtman did say that would turn the key. I kind of agree with him on that. But, I mean, number 7, major policy change, that in and of itself, he basically is saying, well, the border crisis is going to help Biden because he changed policy, because he was referencing executive orders as for the major policy changes, which would basically be getting rid of Remain in Mexico and like a bunch of stuff that Trump did that was popular and or kind of remedial. I don't think that he's pushed major policy change that he's effectively gotten enacted. Yes, he's passed some bills, but none were like super major. Even the infrastructure bill, people aren't seeing anything from that. On top of that, no scandal. Is the Her report just not a scandal? That's a big thing. And also foreign policy. Nobody is viewing anything overseas as anything but a failure. It's not like China's taking Taiwan, but Russia taking Ukraine and all these other things happening under Biden's watch. They don't make his foreign policy look good. And funding the conflicts with tens of billions of dollars isn't either. So again, Lichtman's keys are a general guide, but they're not definitive. If Donald Trump gave out another round of checks in 2020, he probably gets reelected regardless of any shenanigans. And at that point, the keys would have been wrong. And that would have not affected the keys at all. But no, we have to apparently just go by the keys blindly for no reason. It just doesn't really make sense. It's like, oh, well, the Redskin rule. Remember the Redskins rule for elections? Every single time the Redskins played a game at home before the election, it's like whichever winner was whichever party wins. And we kind of know that it was right for a very long time. It was more accurate actually than Lichtman until 2012, when it was wrong in 2012 and it was wrong in 2016. And technically, I don't even know if you can count 2020 because they're no longer the Redskins. Although I think that one day they might be again, and it'll be very good if they are. But still. CCM28 says Tulsi for VP makes most sense to clear up the image of Trump to white suburbia. Would also mop up Kamala in a debate. Well, I don't know. What does Tulsi really bring to white suburbia is the real question. I mean, she was despised by that same constituency. But she would destroy Kamala in a debate. I don't think she'd hurt Trump in the suburbs, but it is a wild card. David Solovey says, which squad member is in for the most primary trouble? I don't know. Probably Ilhan Omar. Maybe Cori Bush. I don't know. I have no idea. I wish I knew. I haven't seen any polls. The primaries are coming up eventually, but the woman in Pennsylvania got by like 30 points. Sam Madsen says, how bad is 2022 if Trump was reelected? Honestly, maybe not that bad. And in some places, probably not as bad. But, you probably don't win the House. You probably don't lose many seats, though. It depends on his approval, what the issues were at the time. I mean, maybe you hold the Senate, at least in terms of North Carolina. I think you would hold Georgia, because I think if Trump won, the runoff would go red. Both runoffs would have gone red. So I think you'd still have the Senate, even if you lost like North Carolina or Wisconsin. Toomey probably runs for re-election. Maybe he wins. I don't know. But There's a lot that we just don't know about the midterms. It's like a domino effect. Who knows what's going to happen? Daniel Bildak says, it's funny you mentioned Fetterman and turning into one of the moderates in the Senate. Tester will go down, Brown, Sinema, Manchin, etc. No one left. Well, honestly, I think Fetterman's, you could make a case that he's probably more moderate than all those people at this point besides Manchin. Sinema's a fraud. Brown and Tester are arguably bigger frauds. They're very far left, and hopefully Tester, I think Tester will go down. They have not survived an election with Trump on the ballot. Usually, Senate elections go the way that the states go. And yes, Tester bucked the trend in 2012, but that was 2012. You have a much stronger candidate in Sheehy. You have 12 years of a garbage voting record from Tester that could be attacked. It's not going to end too well. Yeah, Jamal Bowman might go down too, as people in chat are saying. I don't know. Some part of me doesn't want them to go down because they make us look good in comparison. But you could also make the case that for like Overton window purposes, it'd be better if they go down. But they're not even moving the Overton window. They're just annoying. They're just obnoxious people. They're not moving the needle in their favor. It's like MTG doesn't help us. MTG at this point in the game, she's not even like that solid anymore. In fact, a lot of Trump's iffy endorsements, a lot of them come from her, which is a problem. So you look at MTG, I think that if she lost a primary, I wouldn't shed a tear. But that's just because she's fallen off. She was good for a couple of years. She was proposing good legislation. Then all of a sudden, she just had to just shill for Kevin McCarthy, and that's her entire personality now. And it's just, it's not good. She's just, she even when she's like attacking Biden in the State of the Union, it's like you want it to look good. You want her to attack him. You want to side against Biden. But it's like if you're an undecided voter, you could see why that's a little bit off-putting. Just the way she goes about it is what I'm saying. Not the fact that she's even yelling at Biden. It's just the way it went down. Who knows? But that's it. She's fallen off. She's fallen off. I used to think she was like in the top 5, top 10. She's definitely fallen off. I'll say that much. It's like at a certain point, like it's like a kind of a headache. Are you really that worth it? Are you really that much of a fighter past a certain point if you're just bowing down to the establishment and you're selectively anti-establishment now? You know, she didn't want to vacate McCarthy. She wants to vacate Johnson, which just causes more chaos. I mean, on principle, she's not wrong that Johnson's screwed up a few times, and I'm not defending Johnson, but it's like, you didn't do that for McCarthy. You were crying. You were, metaphorically at least, you were doing anything possible to defend this guy, and then boom. It's like, yeah, I can't exactly get behind MTG's some of her actions. I'll say that much. If she was actually like the best on the issues, the most based congresswoman, actually moving the window, yeah, I'd say, she's worth the headache, whatever you want to call it. But past a certain point, it's like, does she really know what she's fighting for? Didn't she also like call for reparations a few years ago? Like, let's be real here. She's not exactly perfect. She's lost hype, as somebody put it. I don't really mind her yelling. It's just the way she did it. I feel like the way I don't know. It's like you know it when you see it, what is technically wrong with this. I'll say that. But either way, what can I say? Let's look in regular chat. Trump needs to take the appeal to the Supreme Court. Well, it is a state case, but I believe you can take state cases up there depending on the circumstances. Thoughts on the Utah primaries? Vote for Staggs and vote against Cox. Vote for, I think, Lyman is his name. I don't know. The challenger. Stefanik or MTG. I mean, they're kind of on an opposite arc. MTG, when she got to Congress, she was base, she was solid, she was moving the needle. Now she's just like, kind of self-serving and serving of other people who are no longer in Congress, and we know who those people are. Kevin. But Stefanik, she's, again, voting record garbage and then starting to improve it. So I don't know. It's like, you find a senator who's like deteriorated. Maybe you could compare them to like I don't know. But like I said, they're kind of on an opposite arc. Sam Madsen says, does Oz win without Dobbs? Probably not, but Mastriano might have done better without Dobbs, so he'd probably gain a little bit. I don't know if he would have won, though. I think Laxalt would have won. Lake probably would have won. Abe would have won. Like, they wouldn't have been able to flub the count at that point. Blake Masters wouldn't have won. Herschel Walker, and I don't even think he would have won. Georgia isn't really that much of a pro-abortion state anyways. Daniel Bidlack says, let me rephrase, they were the perception of moderate. There really is no moderate left in the Dem Party. MTG used to be good, now is crazy. Boebert too. Yeah, I mean, Boebert, her actions are just, some of her actions off the field, off the court, whatever you want to call it, kind of embarrassing. I mean, am I saying primary these people out? I don't think you should primary these people out and replace them with rhinos for the sake of getting them out. But if you find solid replacements, then yeah, honestly, I would probably consider the solid replacement. It's that simple. I mean, Boebert, her actions, like, it's just a headache. Like, what does she do? Like, her voting record's decent, but has it been as good as it was at the beginning? No, I don't think so. Base Cat says, what's funny is that the Fetterman became more conservative as he regained brain function. Just goes to show you that liberalism is for the... Well, I don't know if you should insult the autists that way, okay? Let's be real here. Fetterman gained brain function. That's true. I guess he's talking more conservative because he knows he has to get reelected. He doesn't vote any differently. It's not like he's like defecting from Biden, but he is fighting with the far left, which is funny. It's funny. I'll sit back with the popcorn. I'll watch him. He's entertaining. He's my favorite Democrat. Not because he's actually good on the issues or he has a good voting record or whatever, if he's actually becoming based. It's just because he's entertaining. The concept of a guy in a hoodie who is also like, I don't know, he's kind of rhetorically not as far left is somewhat entertaining. But yeah, I don't think that. I think there's a lot of autists that are very intelligent people and they want nothing to do with the left. I think that there's a word starting with R that you could refer to Fetterman on that debate stage. But yeah. M says women in D.C. can't stop taking L's. You talking about the congresswomen? I mean, it's technically true. Like, well, honestly, you have the Rich McCormick thing too. I mean, but again, apparently he started to have the affair after his wife, they were already broken up basically, and technically it wasn't like an affair from what I know or whatever. Either way, it's strange behavior. Congress is full of strange people that exhibit a lot of strange behavior. It is, these people definitely have a lot of drug-fueled celebrations when they get a chance. It's just how they operate. It's no different than like Wall Street, except Wall Street actually you have to like have a brain and get things done, and in DC you don't. Sam Madsen says Michaels wins without Dobbs. Probably not. I mean, he was not seen as like the abortion radical so much. It's hard to knock off the incumbent governors. I don't know if he'd win without Dobbs. Maybe in Kansas you could make a case for Schmidt because the margin was so close. But Michaels with or without Dobbs, I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Does Whitmer lose with... No, she would not lose without Dobbs. She'd do worse, but she wouldn't lose. Like, Governor's got the biggest boost from it, I think. I think in Texas, I think Abbott probably would have won by like 5 points more if it weren't for Dobbs. But does... let's see... Trump needs to use the argument about Mandela when Biden calls him a well, Yeah, honestly, why not? I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do, what his line of attack's gonna be, but he definitely is gonna go out there and attack Biden effectively, I think. So either way, we're going to end the show in like a minute or two. So let this be the last call for super chats. But if any mods are in chat, post the link. Post the Trump link. Donate to Trump. Let's kill that fundraising record. Let's bury it. At 20 million in a day. I think we could beat that. I think we can. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to pull up before we leave, I mentioned it earlier on in the stream, and the celebrity endorsements list for Biden is the weakest piece of garbage I've ever seen for anyone running for office as a major party presumptive nominee. Because yeah, technically he's not to the election yet. He's not. But we're currently, you look at his primary endorsements from 2020. He had like 5 to 10 times as many notable people. Who on this list is relevant that has come out and endorsed Biden? You have J.J. Abrams, who I guess was like the director of Star Wars or something. It's been a long time since he's been relevant. I don't even know who Charisma Carpenter is. You have 2 relatives of Cesar Chavez. Again, apparently they clearly don't know their father's take on illegal immigration. Stephen Colbert, wow, surprising. Some woman, First Lady, I don't even know who that is. Robert De Niro, of course, he's getting mogged. It's a joke. Some random person without a Wikipedia page, I don't even know why he's on there. Whoopi Goldberg, wow, who could have seen that coming? Mark Hamill, washed up. Some film director. Oh, the Kennedy family that's just endorsed him to spite RFK. Like, that's half the people on the list. Colin Jost from SNL. Olivia Juliana, who's basically female Chris Christie. Lin-Manuel the Hamilton guy, surprising. Lizzo, well, that's a big endorsement. Ryan Murphy, I don't even know who that is. Some director. People don't even know these directors very much. You have Michelle Obama. Wow, that's surprising. That's technically a political endorsement just as much as it is a celebrity endorsement. Jason Palmer, the guy who beat him in American Samoa. Nobody knows who he is, except people that know about the primary in American Samoa. You have some son of some criminal, from what I understand. You have a few people I haven't heard of. Martin Sheen, George Takei, who's been a crazy resist lib for a long time. That's not surprising. And you have the editor-in-chief at Vogue. That's your endorsement list? Where are the endorsements? We could pull up Trump's endorsement list. It's better than this. It's better than this. It's probably going to get a hell of a lot better, by the way. But you look at the Trump endorsements that he's gotten. Like, they're far better. From even relevant people. Antonio Brown blows these people out of the water. Like, you go through the rappers he has and just the other music artists. They're far more relevant than anybody Biden has at this point. I mean, actors, not really a lot of, like, relevant actors, but we know that. But the fact that Biden's not getting any of them is very, very... I don't think it matters for electoral purposes, but I think it matters for cultural purposes. Because it shows where the culture is, and it's like, celebrities come out and endorse Trump. If they did that, they would have their career ruined. But now it's a little bit different. Now it's different. Now people don't want to come out and endorse Biden. Maybe it's because of the Palestine crowd. But, yeah. Someone said never. No, I've heard of Martin Sheen. That's why I mentioned his name. A lot of people on this list I haven't heard of. But Trump's list is far better. And it's not like it matters, but I think it's funny. Daniel Bidlack says 330 Trump, 56 Senate, 240 House, Hellfire 25. Well, your lips to God's ears. I hope that happens, but that's a very lofty prediction. But it would be amazing. And after today, maybe it's more likely. Who knows? Spencer Green says, I just donated 100 to Trump. FJB, also my liberal family members even have recognized this trial as bull. Well, that's the thing. People need to talk to people about this. Talk to people. Have conversations. with your more independent family members. They can go a long way. Base Cat says, who's bigger, Lizzo or Christy? I have no idea. They're both too big to measure. Logan a G says, donated for the first time, $52 well spent. And honestly, guys, if you're donating now, please, if you can later on, donate again. Doesn't have to be like every week. Could be once every 2 months, or donate during the debate, or donate during the RNC. Just donate at some point. Donate at some point if you donate today. Maybe you don't have to do as much because I know it's like the big ordeal. But yes, please donate if you can to Trump. That is, to Trump. And down ballot Republicans, yeah, too. But I mean, honestly, Trump, that money will trickle down because if Trump does better in certain states, the down ballot candidates will too. That's what people need to understand. You got a lot of people that were upset at the RNC because they weren't funding down ballot candidates. And it's like, well, that's the NRSC's job, the NRCC's job. And the more they help Trump, the more they fund Trump, the better he does. And we need to go out there and win this November, get involved, make calls, knock doors, do what you can do. Every little bit helps. We have to win this election. End of discussion. And that's the way it is. That's the only way you can get Trump off. You can acquit him. You can get Trump off the hook. So keep that in mind. So anyways, guys, we're going to end the show. It's been a good one. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you are new, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video or stream. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, even though I mainly just use X or Twitter and IG. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.